Hello and welcome back to another what is this called again? Whatever, it's a review of something I've watched. I forgot what this series is called already. This time it's about anime. Since I've never talked about anime, just a quick intro. I used to be into anime a lot for about 5 years during my high school years, so 2011 to 2016, I think. I know I stopped sometime in 2016, but I was probably borderline addicted to anime, so I guess I eventually got burnt out. And ever since then, I've barely watched any. I still read manga and obviously visual novels, but haven't really seen a lot of anime like past the 2016 point, so I wasn't too familiar with what has came out. I've watched like a couple movies and like a Netflix series, but yeah. So this is kind of I'm finally starting to get back into it. So this is my return to anime. But yeah, I've probably in total. I don't really have my list anymore, so I'd have to look, but I was in like the high 200s, so I would say I'm pretty seasoned in anime. Um, Not that that makes my opinion any better, but I know what I liked in anime at least. But this time I'm going to be talking about a sports anime called Run with the Wind, and I actually don't know what the Japanese name was called because I don't even think it showed in the title screen. But yeah, first off, I really do enjoy sports anime. Actually, just sports stories in general, even movies and stuff. They really do bring out a lot of hype. Typically, a lot of hype. Um, some of my favorite manga are sports mangas. I don't think I have a favorite sports anime. I've seen a lot of good ones, but nothing that I love like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. That's not true. Like Ippo was really good. But yeah, so I just wanted to start with a sports anime because in general, while none of them are like my absolute favorite, I don't actually hate a lot of them. There's just a handful that I thought were kind of meh, just to say we're missing a lot of elements that I like in sports anime. But this was interesting. This one is about it's a track and field anime, and that's not something I've experienced, or I don't know if there is another one. I guess it would be kind of relatable to the idea, at least would be relatable to that famous bicycle one. The name's escaping me because it's been so long since that one's like bicycle, like long distance bicycle relays, and this one's, well, it's track and field in general. They're aiming for a 2-day relay race, so kind of similar in that sense. But I really enjoyed it. It was different. I think instead of the typical really hype scenes of the sport, it was definitely more of a character development story. It's 23 episodes long, which is kind of a weird number. I don't know why they didn't just go for the 24, because I do think it could have been expanded on a little bit more. But yeah, I think the races themselves weren't hype almost at all. At most, you're just cheering for your boys because you want to see them develop as a racer, or as a runner, I should say. But yeah, I don't even think some of my favorite moments of the show has been the races themselves, excluding the final race, because obviously it's the big race everyone's been working towards. The big climax of the series, so obviously you're gonna enjoy that one. But it was definitely more of a character-driven story, which most sports animes are naturally, but instead of like focusing, like typically sports anime is like part character development, part really hyped and intense whatever sport they're performing. Like it's usually a split between that. In this one, it's it's almost fully, it's more of like an 80-20 split, or like the majority is just character development, which naturally leads to very interesting characters. Now, I don't love all of the characters, and I won't say that they got equal amounts of development. I thought some were more developed than others, but they were all enjoyable to a sense. Like, I didn't dislike any of them. And again, when it comes to the last race, you couldn't help but to cheer on everyone, even the characters you didn't absolutely love. As for my favorite characters, I think it's hard not to love Kakeru and Haiji, just because they did get a lot of development, and they're both, especially Haiji, is such an endearing character. For me personally, it's hard not to love him. For more of those, there's still the main cast, but you know, the side main cast. I think Yuki and Nico were my favorites. But that, like I said, it's not like they didn't. Like, Shindo was also very, very, very cool, and the rest, while I didn't love them as much, they were still good characters that I liked. It's also important to note that this is a sports anime based on university, which is pretty cool. It lets, nothing wrong with high school ones, but it lets you, it lets the characters have more mature problems and more mature discussions. And as someone who's 22, so I'm not too far from their age, like I'm probably, Haiji's age, or Nico's. Yeah, the 4th years or 5th year just for Nico, or is he on his 6th? I'm not completely sure. It's a little bit more relatable, so I think that's cool. I think it's obviously nice to see high school students give them all, but it's also, I would like to see more stories focusing on older people, maybe even past university. That would be pretty cool too. Just for a breath of fresh air, since it's pretty packed with high school sports dramas. Also, I think something key for most sports animes are good rivals, good rivalry schools, like a good handful of them. I think that what really makes or breaks some of them, because one of the sports animes I hate, not to offend anyone who likes it, is like the soccer anime called, I don't even remember what it's called, but it's like probably middle school kids, like they were very young, and there was just no rivals at all. So it's sort of like this, but the characters weren't, at least this had some other side characters. This had like nothing. It was all development for like mediocre characters, so sometimes rivals didn't like really drive a story. And this one didn't actually have a lot of that, but I think just because of its nature of not being a super hype anime, it was fine. Like, if they made the races really hype, you really do need some hype rivals to race against, but since it wasn't that bad, it was fine as it is. But for the side characters that they did do, I really did enjoy them. I do remember Sakaki, which was the main character's sort of rival or high school, because the main character's problems are mostly in his past, so I really liked him as a character. He definitely is, definitely resembles Shinji from the Fate series. Infamously, I've heard a lot of people call him like the biggest asshole in anime or whatever. I really enjoyed his character as someone, once you get the full story from like up to Heaven's Feel, he's like a very annoying character, but you kind of understand why he's annoying. Like, you don't have to like him, but he is, you understand him. And this Sakaki was basically a Shinji-like character where he's annoying, but once you understand why he's annoying, you can kind of see why. Not that it changes him being an asshole unnecessarily for some parts, but I think that's a good kind of character. An annoying character that you can understand. It's a good character trait. And then you have Fujioka. I did just watch this like last week, so it is still kind of fresh in my brain. Yet I'm still struggling with names. I guess that's just my memory for you, huh? He was also a good character. He was the godly, the goal, the embodiment of college running for type of character. You see them a lot, and they come in different forms, where they're either like comedically strong or just this godlike presence. It's usually pretty vital. I think it's pretty vital in sports animes in general, so he played this role really well. So in a non-story sense, I think, so yeah, the characters, no, that's what I was talking about. I think the characters are very strong and a really, obviously the main driving point of the series, but another very strong element is the soundtrack. It is amazing, and I love the way they use it. They can perfectly time and even adjust it to the scenes, and I'm really impressed with that. Usually, even the sound editing itself for like the other sounds really spot on. Like sound, while I do like OSTs, it's usually not something I take account of, because usually if they're just mediocre, I just kind of forget about them. But since this one really hit me, I think this is, well, obviously the characters are a driving point. This is probably the most impressive point to me for this anime. The great sound design. I can't really. I'll probably put, because I usually put music on. Well, usually for this series I put dumb lullaby music on, but for this I'll try to put the soundtrack, and hopefully it doesn't get smacked. But yeah, it is. I can't explain it myself, but it is super impressive. Character design. It is Studio IG, I think they're called. Honestly, I don't really know studios too much. I know their names, but I don't really follow what they do and stuff. I thought they looked pretty cool. Obviously, well, I can't say because I don't know if they took inspiration from other stuff, but like I said, the rival really looks like Shinji, just with red hair, and the main guy really looks like Kageyama from Haikyuu. So there's similarities in that, but it's a pretty polished style. Maybe a little rough, but I think I liked it. Their uniforms were cool, especially Shindo's and Yuki's for their mountain part. I really enjoyed. Like they wear like the short track stuff, you know, really short shorts, and the sleeveless. They probably have names, but I don't know. The sleeveless top. But like when they were running on the mountain, probably because it was more dangerous, they had like the cover, like the leggings and the arm covers, and I thought that looked pretty spiffy. I also like the Sataki's look, because even though he was running flat, he still had the arm cover, so that looked pretty cool. I don't know, the characters look fine. I think the best one, not like best visually, but best use of a character appearance for this story, if that makes any sense, is Fujioka's, is the godlike character I was describing, because they really do make him look almost alien with how his head is and how his eyes are very like, he looks almost unhuman, and I guess that just goes with his character well, where he is like this embodiment of running, where he's almost leaving humanity behind because he's reaching for this high level of running. So I thought that was pretty cool how they designed him to look like that. I don't know if I have another favorite character look. I mean, I would just go with Haiji since I love Haiji. I think he was my favorite. I guess we'll go to the negatives, some stuff I didn't like. I think this isn't an unpopular opinion, but correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the animation was not the greatest I've ever seen. I know going into this, people have said this was produced by some of the people working on Haikyuu and stuff. I mean, same studio, which doesn't actually matter since studios usually just hire different animators per series. But But you know, the expectations were set a little high just because Haikyuu is really known for its well animated sequences. And this one just fell a little short for me. I didn't hate it as much as some other people I've heard. Like, I do think there's very interesting, I don't know what it's called. Like in real movies it would be editing sequences, but since it's an anime and there's not real filming, I guess it would just be called anime sequences. I'll just call it anime editing sequences because I don't have a name. But there's some really cool sequences with that where they made the scenes very memorable. Like an example is very early on when Kakeru was running from his past, and you just see all these shadows of characters delivering lines that like obviously bothered him or affected him in some way. That was a very, very cool scene. And another scene, pretty like 2/3 in the way in, again, about his past, where they put that grainy filter and it just kept getting grainier and grainier, and when it climaxed, it just popped and disappeared. That was also a very cool moment, and that I haven't seen in anime, so I was very impressed by those sequences. But like the overall, especially in the races, this is probably why the races weren't too hype. There's a lot of noticeably, not the worst CG I've seen, because I've seen much worse for background characters, but kind of noticeably bad CG. Which it is kind of fair. This doing a bunch of people running might be a little hard, especially if they're just no-name characters that you're not supposed to care about. But it was still a bit ugly. I don't know. Yeah, it looked, again, not the worst, and I'm someone who can handle CG a bit more than some other people, because I know some people will just bash on any CG they see, right? I'm more neutral than that. It was just kind of bad. So I think despite having great editing prowess, the animation wasn't amazing, which is fine. I don't think it was bad. In fact, I think I would just put it in the middle. It was just fine for me. Also, it's just in personal taste, I would have liked to expand the story a bit more. Maybe some better characters from other shows. And I don't even mean big expansions, just like the day before the race. It's like, oh, this university has this guy who's well known for the Section 5 mountain climb or something, just to give and then they would show like an image of him, and just to give some of the CG people a bit more character, give them a more recognizable look, because there are parts in the anime where you're seeing two CG characters you don't care about just racing it out for like a good 30 seconds, and it's just like, I really don't care about this. But if you give them a name and you're like, oh yeah, they mentioned this guy was very good at the flats or whatever, then it might be a slightly more interesting. There's just some really weak parts that came with that. And not even every stool, just some of the stronger stools, right? Like I think they were called the Bosu University. Like they had that one foreign student who was supposedly fast, and they kind of set him up as a pretty good runner, but I don't even remember him in the final race. And these were like the competitors to the champions, so obviously our characters weren't too interlinked with them, but you know, give them a bit more personality, so I'm not watching these guys who are winning the majority of the race just look ugly. So I think it could have used a bit more sprucing up, especially since it's only 23 episodes, right? They still had like typically another spot for like, because there's a lot of 24 episodes series, right? They had another spot, so they could have used it for something like that. And it was also very fast paced near the end. Like again, the races aren't the main part, it's about watching the characters develop for the final race. But I remember they're like, oh, we'll practice this marathon as like a dry run, and then they just immediately skip to the end, right? They could have showed a bit of that. But yeah, those are the only critiques, and they aren't even that big critiques really. I thought and even those like changes I said that might just go against what the people were trying to do with the story. This just heavy character driven story about the development more than the actual races itself, right? So yeah, I can't blame them, but just in my opinion. Yeah, I think that's about it for my opinions. I'm trying to think if there's any other points I care about enough. Not really. Oh, I forgot to talk about the manager character, but she's just she just fills the role. Most sports animes do have the female manager. She just kind of fits the role. I don't think she did anything differently. She was cute. I liked her design, but yeah, it's fine. But yeah, I think that's it. I mean, there are some little general scene stuff I can think of, but I don't know if I care enough to talk about it. It's a good anime. If I had to rate it, I'd give it about probably a 7 out of 10. Because again, I can't stress this enough, but I thought the usage of the soundtrack and the soundtrack itself was very, very good. I was extremely impressed with that. It really elevated the series to new heights. But it is a great character-driven story, and I would recommend it for anyone who likes that sort of stuff. I mean, maybe if you're only into like the super hypes anime, you might get bored with it. But despite some animation flaws and maybe a little bit fast pacing, it is a very fun and enjoyable series. And yeah, 7 out of 10. I kind of gave up on rating the movies, but I think I will try to be more decisive and actually rate stuff. I think it's better to get a perspective like that as someone who consumes a lot of media stuff. Yeah, so anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this rating. If you have any comments about the anime itself or any points you want to hit on, I will respond to the best of my ability. Also, if you're interested in more anime reviews, more anime tapes, eventually you'll see some more. I have kind of been reinvigorated with the urge to watch anime. Like I'm already watching something right now, so maybe I'll talk about that for the next one. But yeah, so come back, maybe even subscribe if you're interested in it. And I also do visual novels. I mean, Higurashi. It's probably gonna be Higurashi for the next year and a bit, so considering the pace I'm going with that. And I talked about movies and stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed, and maybe I'll see you next time. Bye.